Welcome, everybody, to the NFL show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I am your host for the NFL show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host from the FF Faceoff, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
Doing awesome, Mike. How are you?
All right, and we didn't get to do a show the last couple days because me and Anthony both have issues on different days, and Anthony missed talking about his Dallas Cowboys. So you pumped up about the Cowboys?
Cautiously optimistic.
All right, let's talk to a voice of reason. He's here every Wednesday to do the quarterback rankings for the Grueling Truth. Help me welcome to the show, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Are you optimistic about the Cowboys?
More optimistic about the Cowboys than the Rams, which is not saying much.
Yeah, looks like the Rams are dead. All right, so we're going to talk quarterback rankings. And we're going to start at the top. Number 1, Lamar Jackson. Number 2, Russell Wilson. I still think Russell Wilson should be number 1, but Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, at this point, I don't think there's anything I could say that would change your mind.
No.
So I'm just going to roll with it. But Lamar Jackson comes out, throws 5 touchdowns against the Jets. Obviously, New York's a very bad football team. But Lamar comes out, takes care of business. That's all you can ask him to do. He breaks Mike Vick's single-season rushing record for quarterbacks. I just think at this point, he's not the conventional quarterback. He's not going to put up a lot of passing yards, maybe not even a lot of total yards. But I feel it would be very hard for anyone to top him at this point.
Okay, except for Russell Wilson. What do you think, Anthony?
You know, Jackson has to be the guy up there. You know, he's on track to finish in the top 5 in passing and the top 5 in rushing. And I mean, not passing yards, but, as total quarterback between touchdowns and everything else. He's going to finish with probably more yards rushing than like a guy like Chris Carson or Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley. It's ridiculous what he's doing right now.
All right. What are the stats right now, Sam, between Russell Wilson and him?
And Lamar Jackson? Well, I got Lamar Jackson is leading the NFL in passing touchdowns with 33. He's also got 2,889 passing yards, which isn't great. He's got a 112.8 quarterback rating. And in terms of rushing yards, he's got 1,100 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. And on the other hand, Russell Wilson's got 28 touchdowns, 3,700 passing yards, a 109.3 quarterback rating, and 311 rushing yards.
Yeah, pretty equal then.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, legitimately, if you take one really bad game by Lamar Jackson might put Russell Wilson over the top. I just don't think that's going to happen here in the final 2 weeks of the season.
Well, I think right now the one bad game Russell Wilson had in prime time against the Rams is what put Lamar Jackson in front of him.
Yeah, that really was surprising, too, that came out and happened like that. I wasn't expecting him to throw for 245 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. I thought they would come out on fire and play with a little bit of energy against the Rams. That just didn't happen.
Now,
I really think that increased.
Number 3, Drew Brees. If he goes 29 for 30 each of the next 2 weeks with 4 touchdowns, does he get in the race?
I mean, it'd be very hard to not consider something like that. I don't think he would just because he missed so much time, but at the same time, like, that would be just ridiculous. Like, that would be incredible. Because, completing 96% of your passing attempts while throwing for 4 touchdowns and 300 yards is it's unheard of. I mean, it's an NFL record. You don't expect that from a quarterback, let alone a 40-year-old quarterback. So what he's doing is extremely special.
And I only bring it up, Anthony, because he's got a 115 passer rating and a 76% completion percentage to lead the NFL this season.
Yeah, Breeze, in the games that he's played, especially in the past few, he's been really, really good. And I think we are seeing an uptick in his numbers because he is starting to have more than just Michael Thomas catching the football. Jared Cook has really emerged. He started the year slow, looked like a bust signing. And I think since like week 5 or week 6, Jared Cook has been one of the more consistent tight ends. The tight end position from the Saints as a whole, because when Cook missed some time, Josh Hill caught a few touchdowns in that time span, and he even caught Drew Brees' record-setting score last week. And then you have Traquan Smith, who has scored now 3 times in his past 4 games. So it's not just Michael Thomas anymore. And these weapons are really emerging for Drew Brees, which is making a difference.
So my question is this. If we're going quarterback power rankings, this isn't an NFL MVP award. Right now, is anybody better than Drew Brees?
In terms of like efficiency, I don't think so. But Lamar Jackson might have a little more spark. I don't know. Like the two of Lamar and Drew Brees, in terms of like just their performances, just their incredible output right now, are kind of neck and neck in terms of what they're doing week to week at this point.
Because I don't know if we've seen anybody play as well as Drew Brees is playing right now. And off this last game, maybe ever.
Well, yeah, that was. I mean, he set multiple records in that one. Single game completion percentage record. That's just crazy. But at this point, I don't know what else I would expect from Drew Brees. He lives to set records. That's basically what he does.
Well, and I think Drew Brees will get left behind a little bit because we kind of expect it from Drew Brees.
Well, yeah, I think like he has, I think, more than half of the 5,000-yard seasons in NFL history in terms of passing yards, and he's never won an MVP. So I feel like he's been overlooked for so long, just because we just expect it from him. And I feel like that's not really fair to what Drew Brees has done.
Yeah, but we expected it from Peyton Manning too. But Peyton Manning got the majority of those MVPs. I think him and Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So, all right, number 4, Ryan Tannehill. I think he is too high this week because I don't think he should be ahead of Mahomes and Watson, who you have 5 and 6. Anthony.
I'm sorry. Where's Jameis Winston? Because Jameis Winston is the guy who deserves to be up here. The guy has had back-to-back games with over 400 yards passing and 3 or 4 touchdowns. I know I knocked the guy for the turnovers, but I mean, he's had at least 300 yards in all but 3 or 4 of the games this year.
Sam?
Yeah, he's had at least 300 yards since week 6, so he's been on a tear in terms of passing yards. Oh, wait, no, he had one in week 13 at like 268, but he's been really consistent. He's on track for 5,000 yards easily. My knock against Winston is, again, he's hot recently, but he's leading the league in interceptions with 24. So he is very hot in terms of.
All right, but once again, let's go through this. This is a power ranking as of right now, correct?
Correct.
So if it's a power ranking as of right now, shouldn't he be higher?
Probably. He did throw 3 interceptions last week, but this week he cleaned it up against Detroit Lions. He just pulverized them, basically. That's what you'd expect.
With no Mike Evans. Here's what's remarkable. Mike Evans didn't play. He's done for the year. Chris Godwin, he was on track for a monster game and exits the game in the 3rd quarter with the hamstring injury. Their 4th receiver, Scotty Miller, injured his hamstring. He's done. I don't know what the hell's going on with the hamstrings in Tampa Bay. But Rashad Perriman, the past 2 games, 4 touchdowns. The former first-round pick of the Ravens.
But I'll tell you, the one thing that's good here is when we're having this discussion now, we are now including, 12, 13, 14 guys that actually are playing pretty well right now, which is above our normal 7 or 8.
Yeah, it's nice to see some quarterbacks catching on at the very end of the year. So remember, we were talking like a couple of weeks ago about how the NFL had a quarterback problem. So we only had maybe the same 6 or 7 guys we talked about every week, and everyone else was like, who cares, really?
Well, how about this? On Ryan Tannehill, you say that they struggled to establish the running game. But if you are the 4th best quarterback in the NFL, shouldn't you be able to overcome that?
Yeah, probably. But we've used the excuse, or at least I've seen the excuse used in the past for guys like Patrick Mahomes and even Deshaun Watson to some extent with the Houston Texans. So I'm not entirely blaming Ryan Tannehill for that. I would take it more offense to it if we were talking about like a Drew Brees, where they haven't run the ball well all year, but Drew Brees is just phenomenal, so he's picked up for the Saints. But again, like Tannehill, like once we get past those truly elite guys right now, I don't really know if I can hold the guys culpable for everything.
Mm, yeah, but you got to hold him accountable for something. And I just think Ryan Tannehill right now, off the last game, ahead of Mahomes and Watson, and even Kirk Cousins is pushing it because Kirk Cousins has been solid all year. He went on the West Coast, got a huge win. Deshaun Watson threw 2 picks, but he got a game. He won a game on the road that they absolutely had to win.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one thing. Like I did look at the game comparisons. I should have favored Watson a little more because he got the win. Tannehill did get 3 touchdowns and 1 turnover. Watson 2 touchdowns and 2 turnovers, which kind of played into it a little bit. But again, Houston now taking that lead in that division again, and probably will hold on to it for the rest of the year.
And I think 2 guys, Anthony, that you have questioned, and with good reason, even though I like them both, are Kirk Cousins and Carson Wentz. And both of them right now, especially Carson Wentz, I know Anthony or Sam's got him ranked at 10, which I think is too low because I think the last 2 weeks, Wentz has kind of taken this team and drug it to a couple wins.
Yeah, I feel like this might be the best football Carson Wentz has ever played, and I know he had that MVP run before the injury in 2017, but Wentz is doing this with nothing. I mean, a Greg Ward has 9 targets in back-to-back games, and he was on the practice squad 3 weeks ago. He's doing this with Ertz and Goddard, really just tight ends, and doing the best. I mean, I think he's throwing for 300 yards a game in the past couple of games with all of these wide receiver issues. So this is some of the best football we've ever seen Carson Wentz play.
Yeah, and Dak Prescott, who we've got at number 8. Anthony, you want to speak about Dak a little bit? Because I think the big difference here is 15 for 23, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns. He didn't throw the ball 49 times, and they were successful.
Because their identity should be
Yes.
running the ball with Ezekiel Elliott. And they, by doing so last week, they really opened things up for Dak. Dak didn't put up the monster 400-yard games like we've seen earlier in the year, but the Cowboys won in dominating fashion.
All right.
Cowboys' identity is Ezekiel Elliott, not Dak. And for some reason, they wanted to make it Dak, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins at number 7. I think he should be a little bit higher just because this has been a constant with him this year. And I think, Anthony, if he goes to Green Bay and beats the Packers in Green Bay, I think it should put him in the top 5.
Yeah, wait, are you sure it's in Green Bay?
Or Minnesota. Either way, no matter where it is, it's a huge game
either
against
way,
the Packers.
You know, it's a chance, and I know you hate when I say it, for him to get another signature win. And Kirk Cousins this season has put together a lot. I mean, even going to the West Coast and beating the Chargers, it was a must-win game. This is the best we've seen Kirk Cousins play. This is the reason why Minnesota gave him that guaranteed money.
Number 12.
So if he,
go ahead.
I mean, if he does, now if Cousins goes and beats Green Bay this weekend, and Tannehill goes on the road and beats the Saints, then I'm going to keep Tannehill ahead of Cousins.
According to how they do it, though.
Because Tannehill has 1 wide receiver and Derrick Henry, where Cousins has Diggs and Thielen healthy, Kyle Rudolph and Dalvin Cook. He has more to work with.
Yeah. Number 12, Tom Brady. Now, I will say this. I watched the game against the Bengals. His offensive line is terrible. He has no weapons. But he made some throws in that game to tell me that the issue in New England is not Tom Brady, Sam.
Yeah, no, I don't believe the issue in New England is Tom Brady alone. Like you said, he's got a lot of holes around him. This is probably the worst supporting cast he's had in a long time. But at the same point, he is struggling. He's having a tough year. We're seeing some aging issues with Brady. And, you know, that's only made worse by this poor supporting cast. He's still having a solid year. But just compared to some of the other guys on this list, like we said, it's been good for quarterbacks recently. You know, compared to some of the guys on this list, he's not performing as well. And, again, part of that is the supporting cast around him. But at the same time, he's not living up to the usual Brady standards.
All right, then we've got 13, Aaron Rodgers. Who would have thought we'd have ever seen Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers at 12 and 13, Matt Ryan at 14, Derek Carr at 15. The Rodgers thing is, I think what we're seeing here is Aaron Rodgers is no longer the guy that can just throw the team on his back and win the game, Anthony. Anthony?
I still think Aaron Rodgers is still that guy.
No.
I just think that they don't need to because you have a guy. I know we don't like to talk about the Pro Bowl. I'm not a fan of the Pro Bowl. You're not a fan of the Pro Bowl. I don't think the players are a fan of the Pro Bowl. But the biggest snub had to be Aaron Jones. And when you have a guy like Aaron Jones and you have a Jamal Williams, you don't have to depend on Aaron Rodgers as much as you used to.
Yeah, but they're barely beating bad teams. And they're losing to good teams. And they're losing badly to good teams. When they played San Francisco, they got beat, 37-8 or something? I don't know. I know Anthony is a big Aaron Rodgers fan, and I think Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. Sam, am I way off base here? Because this doesn't look like the same guy throwing the ball to me.
No, I'm totally on board with you right now in terms of Aaron Rodgers. I don't think this is the same guy. And I know we joke about the Pro Bowl because it's just the popularity contest and all that, but Rodgers being voted to the Pro Bowl this year it's just incorrect. He shouldn't be there. He's not one of the guys who's deserving of that kind of award this year. And like you said, last two games they played the Redskins and they played the Bears, and they've won by a combined 11 points. So they're barely beating bad teams. The Bears almost won the game last week, or almost tied the game up last week with that last-second play that their guy just screwed up in the end. I mean, I don't think this is.
But that's not Aaron Rodgers' fault. That's the defense.
Really?
Well, no, hold on.
He only scored 21 points.
If you score more points, then you're fine. You don't have to even go to that final play. And then against Washington the week before that, you put 20 points on Washington. It's Washington. You should be able to do
give you
more than
Washington. That. Chicago's still a tough out on that defense.
I don't think
they're not what they were, but they're that secondary is still menacing.
Yeah, I just think that Aaron Rodgers in the past would be winning these games by more than what you would expect. And now he's kind of struggling to hold up and keep this team afloat, which he shouldn't really be because you've got two guys in defense that have 10 or more sacks. You've got some good supporting cast around him right now.
Well,
maybe the best one he's had in a while.
They don't have a support. He has Devontae Adams. Jimmy Graham's a shell of himself who's dropped more touchdowns than he's caught this year. And their number 2 wide receiver is by committee.
Isn't that what it's been in Green Bay for the last 5 years?
Well, I mean, since Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, but the point is, the last 5 years with no running game and no wide receivers or just one wide receiver, Aaron Rodgers has been able to, when he was healthy, make this team really good. And I think the big key is what I just said. When he was healthy, this is age to me. If you watch him, his feet don't move as quick. He doesn't move as well in the pocket as what he did. Now, I think it's still possible he could come up and throw a big game here or there, but I don't think you're going to consistently get what Aaron Rodgers used to be able to give.
I think at this point, I think you nailed it, saying that in the past he was able to put up big-time numbers with a lack of a running game and a lack of a receiving core. I think at this point, you do need a Devontae Adams and somebody else. Because a couple of years ago, when it was Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, and Devontae Adams was the 3, I mean, that was a deadly receiving core. And I think at this point, with Rodgers aging, he needs a little bit more help.
Well, so you just agreed with me. I said
yes,
it was
I'm not disagreeing with you.
All right. Number 16, Josh Allen, I think should be higher than this. I mean, he didn't have a great night against Pittsburgh, but the Steelers' defense is as good as anybody's. And they got a road win on a Sunday night, which Anthony would call a signature win, Sam.
That's right. There's a lot of signature wins going around, but I think
come on,
too bad. Sorry, Anthony, you just had to do it. There's a couple of this is 2 bad games in a row for Josh Allen. He's played 2 really good defenses, don't get me wrong. He's played Baltimore in Week 14, Pittsburgh in Week 15, which is why he's kind of hovering around the middle. I mean, his team's winning, and I have to give him credit for that. Buffalo looks like a legitimate playoff team that could actually make a push here and go a couple rounds in. But at the same time, Josh Allen's kind of been mad the last 2 weeks.
Anthony?
I don't. You think Allen should be higher?
Yeah, I would put him ahead of Derek Carr. I'd put him ahead of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, maybe right now. I don't know if I'm putting him against of Aaron Rodgers, but I'm putting him ahead of Derek Carr for sure because they're winning games. But I don't know. When Josh Allen was playing better earlier in the year and using Cole Beasley and John Brown, I think you can make that case. But right now, I give more credit to that defense for playing better and keeping them in these games.
All right, next up, we got Kyler Murphy at 17, Ryan Fitzpatrick at 18, Jared Goff at 19. And I think this goes to what we talked about with Dak Prescott, because Jared Goff, it seems like every one of these games that's a loss ends with I give a completions and then I give attempts that are 50 or 51.
Yeah, if you look at, they're going through the same issues, except for the fact that they don't have a healthy running back to turn to. Dallas is just coaching. They just don't hand the ball to Zeke enough. But if you look at the Rams, Gurley clearly isn't the same player that he's been in the past, and they're having trouble making up for that. And in the end, they end up throwing the ball 50-something times. Jared Goff's not the kind of quarterback you can throw the ball that many times with. They'll make mistakes. They'll throw bad passes. And in the end, they just can't pull this off. And it's a shame because they have a talented team in terms of individual players, but it just hasn't meshed well for the Rams this year.
All right, 20 Gardner Minshew. Now this is where we get the guys that are really bad. 21 Eli Manning. 22 Andy Dalton. 23 Phillip Rivers. 24 Sam Darnold. 25 Jacoby Brissett. 26 Mitch Trubisky. 27 Baker Mayfield. 28 Dwayne Haskins. 29 Kyle Allen. Number 30 Devlin Hodges. 31 Drew Lock. 32 David Blah. Now, I just went through all of them because when I look at this, they're all the same guy.
I think Trubisky needs to be a little bit higher for the way he's been playing lately.
Did
this is now past 4 to 6 weeks. Mitchell Trubisky looks like a completely different player.
He was absolutely horrible against Green Bay.
He still kept him in the game.
No, he didn't. Aaron Rodgers kept him in the game. The Green Bay Packers kept him in the game. I mean, he was 29 for 53, and he threw 2 interceptions.
I mean, Trubisky, you talk about guys who should not be dropping back 50 times. It is Mitchell Trubisky.
But if I draft a guy number 2 in the draft, he should be able to drop back 50 times.
I don't think he should have been drafted that high.
No, he shouldn't have. And I think number 26 is fine for him. Well, I would probably I'd put him ahead of Brissett. I'd put him ahead of Darnold.
I put him ahead of Eli.
Rivers, Dalton, Eli. Yeah. I got to agree with Anthony on this one for the first time. I think I would put him somewhere around 19 or 20.
And I'm not a Trubisky guy. I don't think he should be retained as the starting quarterback next year in Chicago. But, as of right now, out of that group, he's been playing the best in the past 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, Sam. Answer for yourself.
Okay. All right, look. If we're talking about Mr. Trubisky being like 19th or 20th best quarterback in the league, we have a problem in general here, not just with the quarterback rankings. But you're right. I wouldn't.
But right now we just have a problem with your quarterback rankings, so let's stay on topic.
Oh, okay. All right. But no, I think those 2 interceptions, they had a chance to beat Green Bay. They really did. And a lot of that, I think, was Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay just not capitalizing. But Trubisky did throw 2 interceptions. He's been decent, I guess, since week 11. All that time, he's got 9 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So he's basically, it's not great. I guess it's not god-awful either. Trubisky, I could see putting him ahead of Brissett. Brissett really didn't do anything, and the Colts have totally collapsed here late in the season. I don't know about putting him ahead of Darnold, honestly, because Darnold playing against Baltimore.
The one thing about Darnold is this. I mean, he did beat the Dallas Cowboys. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, you're right. We should move Darnold up.
So did Trubisky. So you want to let's just pour it on with him.
Actually, Trubisky, I would have in front of Darnold. I would have Trubisky in front of Rivers. I would have Trubisky in front of Dalton, who was absolutely horrible last week. I would have Trubisky ahead of Eli Manning. And I would sit Trubisky, to me, belongs in with the Jared Goff, Gardner Minshew crowd, which is guys that, especially with Jared Goff, people expected a lot of, and they're not getting much. So I'm not really defending Trubisky because I think really after you get past number 17, these quarterbacks are all not very good.
Yeah, I mean, after that, realistically, any of these quarterbacks past 17 could end up on different teams next year, or they could end up as bench players. Honestly, I mean, that's what we're looking at.
Or
right
they could
now.
be co-hosts on this show with me, you, and Anthony.
Hey, that's probably be a step up in the world for them.
Yeah, maybe Eli will want to come on.
You made a good comparison with Trubisky and Goff, and these are two quarterbacks who really regressed from last year. Their teams regressed, and I think the parallel is the lack of a running game, where these guys, they were drafted high, but they need a lot of help.
Well, see, I think this, though. I don't think that's the case with Trubisky. I don't think all the help in the world will help him. Jared Goff is a guy whose strength is play-action passing. He can throw the ball down the field. If you give him a running game, he's going to look good. I think with Trubisky, it wasn't even so much about Jordan Howard in a running game last year. It was the fact that they got 30 turnovers and started like a league-leading 28 drives inside the 50-yard line.
Yeah, that's a good point, too.
You know, so I think with Goff,
he needs a lot of help.
There is a way to success with Jared Goff, if you know what I mean. If you can play action pass, they can be successful. But if the run's taken away, they're dead in the water. With Trubisky, I don't think there's any chance. And Devlin Hodges, I think, should be higher than number 30.
Oh, come on, Mike.
I think he should fill right around 26. Devlin Hodges,
really?
To
that
me,
high?
I would take over Dwayne Haskins and Kyle Allen.
That's interesting.
Well, Kyle Allen, he's done. They're starting Greer.
Yeah, well, that
Kyle
kind of
Allen
proves my point that Devlin Hodges should be above Kyle Allen. But number one, he threw 4 picks, but 2 of them were desperation, one at the end of the game. And the other thing is this. I think Mike Tomlin's done a really good job with him. But I think this, if you want to make the playoffs and really be a threat, at some point you just got to let the kid play and actually find out if he can or not.
Yeah, though I will say this to some extent. Devlin Hodges takes more shots than Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph, when he was playing quarterback, wouldn't even throw the ball. They wouldn't even let him throw it at all, and he was still terrible. Devlin Hodges, they at least let him take shots down the field, which I appreciate. I like the fact that Devlin Hodges is not.
Yeah, and that Steelers offense has more issues than just who the quarterback is.
Oh, yeah, the running backs and the receiver depth and everything. It's a whole lot of issues. But
they have no running backs. They have very few wide receivers.
Yeah, the depth is an issue there. But I will say I'm okay with Devlin Hodges. Like what he's done this year, with all things considered.
But then why do you have him below Kyle Allen and Dwayne Haskins and Baker Mayfield? Because Baker Mayfield I think he deserves to be down around 30 because he's been absolutely horrible this year.
Yeah, Mayfield they've been the most disappointing team in the league probably, considering all the talent they have.
He sucked real bad. He is one of the big reasons outside of Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, no, he's been bad this year. He got 17 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. He's not. I mean, that's one for one exactly. He's not helping them at all. He's got talented players around him. It's not like he doesn't have help. He's just not able to use it.
He has Odell Beckham Jr. is playing through a groin injury since the preseason, and David Njoku missed almost the entire year, all but 2 quarters.
But wouldn't David Njoku's career? Player. I don't think David Njoku's a Pro Bowl caliber player.
He's one of the most athletic. He was drafted to be, and he's extremely athletic.
This is the thing. You don't have to be that good to be a Pro Bowl caliber player. Tell me this, because this is what I always went by, because people say, well, I made this many Pro Bowls. How many times were you all pro, though? Because that, to me, means more. Because Pro Bowl is just a popularity contest.
Right.
And let's face it, guys have gotten to the Pro Bowl multiple times just because the guys in front of them didn't want to go.
Okay, but David Njoku is still a quality tight end, an upside tight end. I would put him with
Baker
Mayfield.
Like
an Evan Ingram.
Okay, let's go through this again. Baker Mayfield was the first player taken in a draft. I don't care who he's throwing to. He's got to make plays. And he made plays last year against bad teams. He's not making the plays against bad teams this year. Now, last year he sucked against good teams, and he sucks against good teams this year. But he played the Cardinals and got manhandled. It's not like the Cardinals are running with, great defenders.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're telling me this after he gets shut down by the Steelers, that's one thing. He gets shut down by the Cardinals, though. That makes me worry that there's a deeper issue with him, and I think we all know there's a deeper issue with him.
Yeah, I don't think you can't look at the season and say there's not problems with Baker Mayfield. Now, obviously, there's more than just Baker Mayfield on the team. There's many more problems with this whole organization. But at the same time, you got to point a finger at Baker Mayfield and say he's part of the issue right now. He's not a victim of the situation.
Yeah,
he's part
of the problem. Yeah. But all right, let's talk a little bit of NFL news. The Detroit Lions ownership has decided to keep general manager Bob Quinn and head coach Matt Patricia in 2020, and it's win or else. So, who do you think will be the coach of the Lions in 2021, Anthony?
Somebody to be named later, because it's not going to be Matt Patricia.
No, but if they're serious about winning, why would they keep the GM and the head coach? Sam?
Same reason why Cleveland's saying they're going to keep Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, there's this perception now that you have to keep guys, even if they're bad, for 2 or 3 years just to make sure. But honestly, if you know they're not the answer, and they're not the answer, then you should really be ready to move on and get Matt Stafford healthy, reload, and go ready for next year.
Yeah, and Patricia currently is 9-20-1. And in 4 seasons as the GM, Quinn is 27-34-1. You think maybe they're just running out of retreads and new kids to try out at the position, Anthony?
At what, quarterback?
No, at head coach.
It's hard with this whole head coaching thing because some people think you need to give these guys a couple of years to try to rebuild a culture and get their guys in. But I feel like, look at Brian Flores in Miami. I feel like just by the way that team plays for him, and we saw that in the early days of Sean McDermott, you knew there was something there. I just don't get that with Matt Patricia or Freddie Kitchens. I don't get that same feeling.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think this, for what it's worth, McDermott should be the coach of the year. And I think there's no question about that anymore.
I mean,
yeah, he's doing really well with a team that doesn't have as much talent as some of the other squads out there. He's only 1 game behind New England, so I think he does deserve a lot of credit for that. I just don't know if he gets it over a John Harbaugh.
Why? He deserves it more.
It's gonna be close.
Well, put it like this: if he beats the Patriots this week and somehow wins the division, but to win the division, don't they have to win out? And New England has to lose out.
Yeah, that's how it has to work out.
Is that right, Anthony?
What's that?
That even if Buffalo wins at New England, they need New England to lose to Miami also.
I don't know. I know Buffalo has to probably win out.
Yeah, Buffalo has to, but even if they win out, do they get it if New England wins that last game of the season?
I don't think so. New England might own that tiebreaker.
Well, let's look it up real quick.
While you're looking that up, I think there's a very underrated transaction that went down earlier in the week. And it was the Cardinals waiving Terrell Suggs and Suggs going to the Chiefs. I think that's a pure locker room move for the playoffs. And I think it's going to help that locker room.
Really? I don't think it'll have anything to do with it because I think Suggs is shot.
He could be shot on the field, but he's still a leader. He still has Super Bowl experience.
No, you can't be a leader if you can't play. I mean, how are you going to be a leader if you can't play? You go basically, he's a cheerleader.
Right.
And who cut him?
But how many years did that work in Baltimore?
It didn't
Ray
because
Lewis
he was a player. Yeah, but Ray Lewis could still play. Ray Lewis was still pretty good.
I don't know. I think, when they brought in LaShawn McCoy and they brought in, now Terrell Suggs, I think these were moves to put a little bit more leadership in the locker room because it's a very young team.
I don't know. What do you think, Sam?
I mean, I don't think you're getting much from the field of Terrell Suggs. You might be able to put him in some positional situations and get a couple of good rushes out of him, but you're not obviously playing him full time or anything like that. I do think it could be seen as a character move, but at the same time, I don't know how much that would affect your football team at this point in the season. I mean, it's pretty late in getting ready for the playoffs, but let's not forget the Chiefs went to the AFC Championship game last year, so they've got guys who have been in a spotlight situation before.
But doesn't experience and knowing how to prepare would Suggs add to that?
But wouldn't they already have that because they were in the AFC Championship game last year?
Okay, what if they get over the hump into the Super Bowl? Well, maybe Suggs, if they end up playing New England again. I mean, there was a lot of games that Suggs has played against Bill Belichick and those Patriots. Maybe you don't know.
Okay, I just think he's too old for it to matter, really.
So did you find the division breakdown yet?
It says the likeliest seed for the Patriots is 2, which comes with our first round bye. FPI projects the 85% chance of that scenario, but they could be bumped down to number 3 if they lose one or both of their final 2 games and the Chiefs win out. Hold on, let me get to Buffalo. The Bills clinched a playoff spot Sunday night by defeating the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Buffalo isn't out of the AFC race either. As unlikely as it might seem, the Bills could overtake the Patriots by winning their final 2, including next Saturday at New England, and having the Patriots lose again in Week 17. So, yeah, the only way they win the division is if Miami can beat New England on the last game of the season.
Would you totally rule that out?
No, I wouldn't totally rule anything out in the NFL. But I would say that the chances are small. Because it's still the Patriots. And I still think the Patriots are scary. Now, the other thing I see here is, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, who do they play this week, Sam?
The Jets.
Okay. So, I think the Steelers are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so too. Because Tennessee plays New Orleans, right?
Yeah, and Pittsburgh holds the tiebreaker.
Yeah, so if Pittsburgh just wins this matchup, they should be able to get through. I mean, because Tennessee plays Houston again in Week 17, and Pittsburgh will hopefully be playing Baltimore's backups. So it should get Pittsburgh away to the playoffs.
Yeah, which would right now slot them against the Kansas City Chiefs, which I think would be the worst possible matchup that the Pittsburgh Steelers could get.
Yeah. There's not going to be a great matchup for Pittsburgh in there.
I think Houston they could play with. Buffalo, we know they could play with. New England, maybe. I just see the problem I see here is the Steelers can't really run the ball. So I don't think they're really capable of scoring enough points to beat anybody that's going to be in the playoffs, because you figure if they play the Chiefs, even if you played a defensive game of your life, you're going to have to score more than 24 points to beat them, and they can't do that.
Yeah, no, the only team I see right now in the playoff picture that you maybe could beat would be Buffalo. We just saw how close it was the other night against Buffalo.
Yeah, but I think this. I think no matter who Buffalo plays, the games are going to be close, just because that's the way they play games.
Yeah, that's fair.
And the game would be in Buffalo. I think Buffalo's the better team. I think we actually saw that because I don't think Buffalo played particularly well. I just think that, McDermott outcoached Tomlin in the end. I mean, because there's little adjustments you could watch all during that game where McDermott makes a little change in a blocking scheme or changes a punt. They're audible and stuff, and they pick stuff up right away, which you don't see Pittsburgh doing. It's not a shot at Tomlin. And I said this a couple weeks ago. I think McDermott is one of the 3 best coaches in the NFL. And I've thought that since I watched him get beat up by the Patriots last year, just by how hard his team plays and the kind of adjustments they can make in-game kind of on the run. And, Anthony, I would say this. He's one of maybe 5 or 6 coaches that make adjustments in the game, and they're usually right.
Who, Tomlin?
No, Sean McDermott.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
Tomlin's biggest issue is I think he's a hell of a coach. He's a great motivator. I don't think he's really good at the in-game adjustment stuff.
And where would you put Jason Garrett?
I would put him down with O.B. Taylor and Matt Patricia.
Tell you what, Troy's right back on the Cowboys bandwagon.
Troy has to be because now he's done pissed Daddy off. So,
You know, if the Cowboys, maybe this Rams game.
Stop.
Here we go.
Maybe they turn the switch
stop.
on at the right time. We've seen the Packers make runs. We've seen the Giants make runs. Because the Cowboys on Sunday, they looked like a team that didn't want to lose in the next decade.
They played the Rams.
That's what the Cowboys did to the Rams. That they ripped their heart out.
They played the Rams. And a team would have to have heart for them to rip the heart out of them. That was two heartless teams playing. And it doesn't matter because the Dallas Cowboys, if they played in the playoffs today, would go somewhere where they would get the hell beat out of them after the first game.
They would get a home game.
Yeah, they're going to get the hell beat out of them. Because right now, the 5 or 6 seed would be San Francisco or Minnesota. And we've already seen Minnesota.
They almost beat Minnesota.
Did they almost beat Minnesota?
They did on Sunday night. That was a Kirk Cousins signature win game.
They almost beat Minnesota. Okay. I'll
tell you what, if Dallas beats
who's the best team
Philly,
in the NFL
now?
right
If Dallas beats Philly this week, then the cautious, optimistic self is gone. Then the Super Bowl
your cautious, optimistic self is
back.
already gone. And it makes you sound like a moron sometimes. I mean, let's face this. You didn't beat the Rams as bad as the Ravens did, and the Ravens did it in L.A. What'd you guys do against Seattle?
They were trying to run the clock out, and Tony Pollard was ripping out 40-yard touchdowns.
What'd you do to Seattle?
Did they play Seattle?
I don't know. Did they?
No, but usually when we play Seattle, we beat them.
I think the Cowboys did play Seattle. So before you said Dak beat them, maybe you ought to think back to one of the first few weeks of the season when Dallas beat them or when Dallas lost to them at home. Now, I can also tell you this. Do you think there's a big difference between the Ravens and the Bengals?
Is that a serious question?
Yeah.
And Dallas, I'm looking at their schedule. I don't see the Seahawks.
Are you going to answer my question now? Are the Ravens and Bengals comparable? Are the Ravens and Bengals comparable?
No.
Well, the Bengals almost beat them. Are the Cardinals and the Ravens comparable?
Oh, okay.
The Cardinals almost beat them. You know, the biggest word in the loser's dictionary, there's 2 of them. It's almost and if. If you've got to use either almost or if, you weren't good enough. And it doesn't matter what the score was if you're not good enough. You know, the Ravens beat the Patriots by 17. They beat the Bengals by 6 the first time they played them. The Dallas Cowboys are going nowhere.
We just need to get through Sunday.
I don't know what we is. I don't know what Jerry's paying you, but he should be paying you something because then it would explain these crazy-ass takes. You're playing a Philadelphia Eagles team that you just said has no running game. They have no receivers. They have no defense. And the fact that you have to say if tells me what you think of the Dallas Cowboys.
Any given Sunday.
Of course, any given Sunday, the Cowboys might beat a heavily injury-depleted Philadelphia Eagles team. But remember this, you're going to go play a game, which is more than a divisional matchup. It's a game that will decide the division, more than likely. And Doug Peterson is a guy who's not afraid to do some crazy shit to win the game.
Well, he's going to have to.
And Jason Garrett gets real scared in situations and big moments. So, I think this.
If Dallas wins, they clinch.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. What will their record be?
I don't even know if they wouldn't even be guaranteed a winning record ending the year. They would still need to beat Washington in Week 17. Otherwise, they'd be 8-8.
So if they beat Philadelphia, you're ready for them to make a run, and their record would be what?
They'd be what, 8-7 going into week 17.
7 going into week 17. And we've already watched them when they play good teams, they get their ass kicked. We watched the Patriots hold them under 10
the
points.
significance, now nobody can say the Cowboys haven't beaten anybody with a winning record because they beat the Rams.
Yeah,
the
nobody
Rams,
believes the Rams are any good.
Two-game winning streak.
Oh, were they? A whole
No,
2
that's a
games.
streak.
Oh, 2 games ain't even a winning streak. They just won back-to-back games. Come on, nobody thought the Rams were any good. And I hate to tell you this, but you said the Rams would blow the Cowboys out.
I thought they would, and you know what? The Cowboys surprised me. I think they heard me on the show, and I think that they wanted to play for me.
They didn't surprise me. But when you look at this, how many teams have the Cowboys beaten that would be playoff teams?
None.
Once again, if you go through the Cowboys' wins, they beat the Giants. Did they beat the Giants? Yeah, they beat the Giants twice. Yeah. They beat the Redskins once. They beat the mighty Miami Dolphins. The Saints smacked them. The Packers smacked them.
By 2 points.
Wait a second.
Saints.
Didn't we just go through this? You lost.
But that,
against a good team.
I'm sure the former kicker, Brett Maher, probably missed a field goal that would have changed the outcome of that game.
But you guys signed that kicker who sucked and lost you the game. So you got smacked by the Saints where you were held to 10 points. You got blown out by the Packers. You got beaten by
the Cowboys held the Saints to 12. You act like they hung 40.
Did you lose?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you lost to the Saints. You lost to the Packers. You got beat by the New York Jets. You beat a losing record Philadelphia Eagles. You got beat by the Minnesota Vikings, who are a good team. You barely beat Detroit, but you won. You got shut down less than 10 points against the New England Patriots, who have no offense. And then the Buffalo Bills came in on Thanksgiving Day, got behind 7-0, and then beat you 26-8 the rest of the game. You then went to Chicago where you got blown out, even though the final score would tell you 31-24. If you watch the game, you know it was a lot worse than that. And then you beat the Rams, who were coached by a 12-year-old that plays PlayStation. And now you play the Eagles, and you'll probably have to go to Philadelphia General Hospital to play the games so it'll have enough players. So maybe you can get that one too. And in the last game of the season, you'll play against Dwayne Haskins, so you should win that one.
That Minnesota and the New England game, the kicker did miss kicks.
Did he?
That's a fact.
Okay. How about this? Do you know that Minnesota, from looking this up, missed a field goal in that game also? Your kicker missed 2 field goals. If Minnesota's kicker makes his 1 and your kicker makes your 2, they win 31-30. See how that works? It can go both ways.
It can.
Yes.
But I'm only interested in a way that favors what I'm trying to say right now.
Yeah, but see, it doesn't, because you either win or you lose. There is no middle ground. You're either a winner or a loser. And the Cowboys, when they play good teams, are losers. Sam, you agree with me or Anthony?
No, I'm with you, Mike, right now. Don't worry.
I like Sam. I don't care what you say about Sam, Anthony. We're keeping him. But any other Dallas Cowboys news we need to discuss? Anybody else get busted for weed or performance-enhancing drugs?
No player
like
arrest
that?
this week.
Okay.
No, not this week.
That's good. All right. The league, they still are the league leaders in that, though, right?
Yeah, I also think they lead the league in drop passes, which doesn't help their win total either.
Yeah, which
Wait, how do you
leads...
have more drop passes than Philadelphia?
Yeah. Crickets?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll see this week, because the Dallas Cowboys, I would say, talent-wise, should beat the Eagles by 20 to 30 points. Do you agree, Sam?
Yeah, the Eagles are totally depleted, and Dallas is a bunch of guys who are right around that I hate using the term Pro Bowl, but they're right around that general area of skill.
Yeah, there's no doubt the Cowboys should win this game.
The Cowboys are 8th in drop passes. Philly's 9th. Number 1's Miami. Number 2's Buffalo. 3 Chicago. 4's New England.
Yeah. So what you're saying is the Cowboys and Eagles are about equal in everything. Except the Cowboys are healthy and the Eagles are beat up
Right.
and half their team's in a nursing home.
Right, and in theory, Dallas should win this game and clinch their playoff spot.
Dallas should easily win this game. This game should not even be a question at halftime. And then the Cowboys will bludgeon the Redskins, and then they will host like Seattle or San Francisco, and they'll probably win that game.
And they could potentially be a red-hot Cowboys
I
team
know.
on a
They'll be
3-game winning
smoking
streak.
hot. I know. They'll have beaten the Rams,
Maybe.
the Eagles, the Redskins.
Maybe Jason Garrett is smarter than everybody, and he kind of eased up on Zeke, and now he's going to give him 30 carries a game the rest of the way en route to a Super Bowl. You don't know.
Yeah, that's probably what he did. And then they'll go
That only works
play.
when they make the playoffs.
Yeah, then they'll go to New Orleans and they'll beat the Saints. And then in a championship game,
They're capable.
Yeah,
they did it last year.
I'm sure they are. They're fully capable of that. They're not capable of that. This is a different Saints team than last year, as long as everybody's healthy. And it's a different Cowboys team because the Cowboys sucked last year just like they sucked this year. That's why they got blown out by the Rams in the playoffs.
Blown out? Were you watching the same game? Blown out.
I never had any doubt who was going to win
game.
that game.
That was a close game. That wasn't a blowout.
It was a blowout. What was the final score?
I think the Rams won by a 10th.
By what?
A 10th.
What's a 10th?
A 10th of a point.
I think they won by 10, didn't they?
They won by 8.
They won by 8. So that's not that close. It's 2 scores. Because you got to score a touchdown and they get a 2-point conversion. So they lost by 2 scores. It was 30-22. And it was 20-7 at halftime. It was 23-15. And let's see, how did the scoring go? Because that would tell us a lot. Because then it was 30-15. So y'all scored a touchdown in the last couple minutes, which cuts it to 8. Not really that close.
What?
I'm just asking. I mean, it seems like 30-15 with 3 minutes left is really not that close of a game.
I mean, Jared Goff I think that was the game he ran for a first down to ice it. Yeah. Otherwise, Dallas would have gotten the ball back.
Yeah, with less than a minute left, down by 8 points.
And in Tangidak.
Yeah, and ever since you've said that, if they won a game. Oh, yeah, they just beat the Rams. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap this crap show up. Sam, you want to tell everybody where they can find your stuff and why you hate the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, there's a number of reasons why I hate the Dallas Cowboys, and I can't list them all here in a couple of seconds. But I will say you can find me on Twitter at Sam_Teets33. You can also find me under that name on Instagram and just look me up on Facebook. Pretty much one of the only people with the last name Teets, so it's not that hard, Teets. And you'll find all my articles there. I post it on all 3 sites, so it should be no problem.
All right. Mr. Cervino, would you like to tell everybody where you reside on the internet?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. You can follow my show at the FF Face Off. You can find us on all the top social media and podcast platforms. And if the Dallas Cowboys win the next 2 games, they really won't lose again this decade.
Yep, because the decade will be
So my
over.
prediction would have came true.
No, it wouldn't have, because you predicted it at the start of the year.
Yeah, but it starts over after every loss.
Well, you know what? It's very possible the Bengals may not lose again this decade. They played the Dolphins and the Browns. I'm going to be very upset, too, if they win both of those games.
That means no Joe Burrow, doesn't it?
Yeah, I need one more loss. One more loss and we clinch, and my season will be a success. But we almost beat a lot of teams, though. But that just means we suck. But at least I realize it. All right, guys, we will be back tomorrow to preview Thursday Night Football. and talk a few other inane things that probably have something to do with the Dallas Cowboys and how badly they suck. Maybe we could have a Philadelphia Eagle on tomorrow to threaten Anthony. You want to, Anthony? We could have a Philadelphia Eagle on tomorrow.
Who, one of their practice squad receivers?
Well, I figured we could just call the hospital and get one of them. They're all there. It's probably because they're afraid of Jerry and what's your coach's name again? All right, guys, at Grueling Truth. Also, you can hear all of our shows wherever you find podcasts, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. So, we will be back tomorrow at noon. For Sam Teets, Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.